Hey, good afternoon. Today we're going to be solving linear systems, so we're having two variables and two equations. We're going to identify the solution, aka what makes it true for both equations. And we're going to write that as an ordered pair. There's three possible scenarios. You could have one solution and your lines cross, they meet at one point. You could have no solutions, meaning the lines never cross. And you could have infinitely many solutions, meaning you're actually working with the exact same line. Okay? Pause the video wherever you need to. Step number one, we're going to isolate one variable in at least one equation. We're going to substitute the resulting expression into the other equation. Solve that equation to get the value of the variable. Substitute the value back into one of the equations and solve. Write the final answer as an ordered pair in the form of x comma y. Pause the video if you need to. Here's our first example that we have, and for this first example, they are both set equal to the value of y. Since they're both set equal to the value of y, I can set these two equations, x plus 3 and 2x plus 5, equal to each other. So if I have x plus 3 equals 2x plus 5, my first step is going to be take x away from both sides, and I end up with 3 equals x plus 5. I'm going to move that plus 5 over to the left-hand side by subtraction. So remember, we undo addition with subtraction, and I get negative 2 equals x. So we actually know our value of x right now. If x equals negative 2, and you can always rewrite that if you don't like the way it looks, what does the y value equal? So I'm just going to use this x value and plug it into the lower equation. You can plug it into either one. If x equals negative 2, y equals 2 times negative 2 plus 5. I'm going to simplify for us, and y equals 1. To write that as an ordered pair, you'd always write the x first and then the y. So we have our x value, comma, y, and you can see written on the screen, we should write it as negative 2, comma 1. So this is if you have both equations equal to y. Pause the video if you need to. Next one has one equation equal to y, so we're going to follow those steps. Step 1, we already have a variable isolated. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now take this entire expression, that negative x minus 7, okay, that expression is the value of y. So I can plug that whole thing into the first equation. Now what does that look like? Okay, so that we are now on step number 2 for us. So I am going to replace y in that first equation with the entire thing of negative x minus 7. So my equation now is 2x plus negative x minus 7 equals negative 4. Notice I used parentheses because if there's something in front of a y or in front of that old variable, I need to distribute. I'm going to get rid of those parentheses because it's addition. It's just timesing it by a positive 1. So I have 2x minus x minus 7 equals negative 4. Let's combine like terms. 2x minus x would be x. We still have the minus 7. We still have that equal to a negative 4. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. And x equals a positive 3. Once we find x, I'm going to plug it into that lower equation. The lower equation for this one is an easier one, I think, because it's already solved for y. So when I plug that in, I have y equals negative, plug in that number 3 instead of x. So I have negative 3 minus 7 So y is going to equal -10. Our final step is just like we have on the screen, write it like an ordered pair. Make sure that you have x first and then y. So I'm going to rewrite that at the bottom as 3, -10. On Math Excel, you might need to include the parentheses. They might already provide it. If it asks for an ordered pair, please make sure that you have those parentheses and you have the comma separating them. Okay, another example for us. Luckily, it already is solved for y in that first equation. So y equals this entire thing. I'm going to use that expression and replace y in the bottom equation with 2x plus 8. Now, there's a helpful hint at the top. When you substitute and there's a coefficient, aka a number in front of the variable, use parentheses and don't forget to distribute. Okay, let's walk through that because I want to make sure we're all perfect. So we have 3x plus 2 times the group, 2x plus 8, all equals 9. So what I've done is I've just replaced y with that first equation. So distribute to begin. When you distribute, make sure you're fair to both. So I'm going to have the +2 times 2x and a +2 times 8. Next line will read 3x plus 4x plus 16 equals 9. Combine like terms. 7x plus 16 equals 9. Subtract 16 from both sides. 7x equals -7. Final step, divide both sides by 7. The value of x that we find is a -1. Next step, I'm going to, in the original equation, use that x. Okay, and the original equation was y equals 2x plus 8. That one's already solved for a variable. That's the one I'd suggest. We're going to use that -1 and replace x with a -1. Please put it in parentheses so you get used to the idea we're taking the entire number. Make sure that you bring that negative up. Okay, I'm going to solve this for us. 2 times -1 is -2. The value of y should be 6. Okay, to write it as an ordered pair, we would write it as -1, 6. This problem we'll be going over together in class. Okay, please come with any questions. I'd like you guys to try this one out. Okay, if you try it out, it'll help us out and make sure that we are all good to go. My hint is that I would probably use that top equation and I would either solve for x or solve for y at the beginning. It'll just make it easier in the long run. The x is actually the easier, in quotes, option to solve for first.